Well, welcome everyone to our fourth week of the Wheaton Academy virtual Q&A. My name is Brittany Klinke, if I have not met you yet, and it is just my pleasure to host this awesome group tonight. I just can't wait for you to meet them. They're just some phenomenal people at Wheaton Academy. So we'll give people a couple minutes to get signed in here, just to make sure everyone gets settled. You can familiar yourself with the control panel if you'd like, that you have different options we'll explain here in a few seconds. But welcome, and we'll get started momentarily. So how's everyone doing?
Good.
Great. Tonight is a big night, both for Hannah and Jeremiah, because in addition to this Q&A, we have a fine arts showcase that's kind of a virtual tune in at 7:30. So for those of you joining us, you're welcome to come and see that too. Who you're kind of showcasing all of our fine arts programs. Hannah and Jeremiah, do you want to explain it at all?
Yeah, well, so all of the fine arts groups have been preparing stuff for this all throughout the several weeks of learning. So I'm involved in orchestra and the visual arts, but we're also featuring the band, choirs, dance team, and all sorts of visual artists. So I think ceramics and painting and sculpting and all of the different art classes. So the band and orchestra and choirs put together like virtual of them. You might have seen like YouTube videos of like professional orchestras who did that. So like we played a solo by ourselves, and then our production team at Wheaton Academy put all of the individual videos together, and it's gonna be like an actual concert. And so we're excited to see how that turns out, because I haven't seen it yet, but it's been fun to make those. And then I'm not exactly sure how they're going to feature the visual arts, but I was in a planning committee for that, and we decided to kind of showcase some of the seniors' art, just because we don't get to have any of that honorary like we used to do in person. But we're going to feature some of that, and then also the ceramics and the dance. So it's going to be all sorts of fun fine art stuff that's going on at our school.
So good.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I realized my sound went out. I'm back. Well, good. Well, if you're just now joining us, I want to explain a little bit of the dashboard that you have hopefully to the right of our screens. There's some options for you to click. The two that I want to highlight are the handouts, first and foremost. There's three things that you can download there. The first is our philosophy, kind of our school expectations and statement of faith can be found there. So if you want to know some of the things honestly that we'll talk about tonight, but just in writing, the way that Wheaton Academy approaches Christian education, it's a little brief overview in that document. There's also an application guide, so a quick step of how to apply if you are a current 8th grader or incoming transfer. And then there's also our Ready, Set, Go lookbook, which is one of our most kind of cohesive and exhaustive resources that just explains some of our academic programs, some of our kind of spiritual focus, again, tonight's topic, and then also some of our college readiness initiatives. So tons of information in those, and I encourage you to open up those documents, and you know, welcome to flip through them and things while we're talking if you'd like to kind of supplement our conversation with those resources. And then the second thing I want to point out, there's a little bit of a button that says questions or chat that you can click and type in questions and things that you have throughout the evening. So if there are things that you'd like this group to answer, or Robert, who's our admissions team, also is behind the scenes monitoring this, he'll answer some of those questions too. So don't be shy, reach out, and we'd be happy to be a resource for your family. So with that, I'd love to jump in and get started. So I'd love to briefly do some introductions, just maybe share your name, kind of your role at Wheaton Academy, and maybe kind of how long you've been there. So I know I mentioned already, but my name is Brittany Klinke. I'm the Director of Admissions at our school, and I've been there about 10 years. So I started as an English teacher, actually taught across the hall from Matt for about 6 or 7 years, and then transitioned to admissions a couple years ago. So yeah, Matt, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. I actually went to Wheaton Academy and graduated in '91, and we'll find that someone on the screen went with me, which is super fun. And yeah, and then I have been teaching at Wheaton Academy for 19 years. Woo, that's crazy. And I've been doing curriculum on Shakespeare. I've been a British literature teacher. I now teach a class on philosophy and worldview that I've developed and created. And I get to teach a discipleship class as well. So fun, so fun. Some people don't know that I also coordinate the Adventure Club at Wheaton Academy. We do rock climbing and hiking and even ice climbing at times when we get ice. So super fun.
That's great. That's great. Jeremiah?
Hey everybody, my name is Jeremiah Staten. I am a graduating senior at Wheaton Academy. This is my 4th year at Wheaton Academy. Yeah, it's crazy to think about actually. And a few things I'm involved with: football, wrestling, the spring musicals, choir, just a few things I'm involved with at Wheaton Academy. So yeah.
And the worship band, can't forget that.
Yeah, I don't want to go on a whole list.
The highlights. You don't want to go too long. Oh, I appreciate that humility, Jeremiah. Well, for Mr. Hogan's sake, we had to mention the worship band because it's a nice segue to him. So go ahead, Brian.
Oh man, I was concerned there for a minute, Jeremiah, about that. But yeah, my name is Brian Hogan. I've been at Wheaton Academy on staff for just a year. This is my first full year on staff as the Dean of Chapel and Spiritual Formation, and it's been a crazy year. I've been spiritually formed and pandemically deformed. So I can't wait to next year to hopefully get a full year under my belt. But yeah, so I've just been at the Academy for a year, but we've been no strangers to the Academy. I have 2 sons who graduated from the Academy, and I have a current junior. So we've been around the Academy for almost 12 years, and it's been so meaningful for our family. I coordinate chapels, and I also work with our worship teams. We had a couple of worship teams. Jeremiah was on my team. I coached our Unplugged team, and some of you may want to know what that is, but I won't answer it. I'll wait for you to ask it later. But so it's been I've had a great first year, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share with you guys tonight about some of the exciting spiritual things that are going on at Wheaton Academy.
That's great. That's great. And Young, last but not least.
Can I go first? Sure. I'm Melanie Young. I went to the Academy, graduated in the class of 1990, and been affiliated a long time. And then Hannah is my youngest of 3 girls to attend the Academy. So I've been super thrilled to continue our relationship with the Academy through them. I've been so excited to have them come through.
Well, my name is Hannah Young. I am also a graduating senior. Yeah, so I am kind of like, as I mentioned before, I'm involved in a lot of the arts here at Wheaton Academy. So I love to do visual art, so I've taken a bunch of art classes here. I'm also have been involved in the orchestra all 4 years. I'm also involved in this, like a lot of other random things like Project Lead, Wall Reps, and a bunch of other just like smaller groups around school. And I love this place, so I'm really excited to be here tonight and talk about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I'm sure we'll get to know you more and more throughout the evening, but I think those introductions are helpful to people, at least for some framework. And that's really kind of how I want to start. The first few questions is just to give some basics to families who are new to our school and kind of understand as a Christian school, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of things that can be true of Christian schools. I grew up going to a school that was affiliated with the church, and it was K-12 and, all different things. And so for us, I just would love to explain some of the kind of pillars of how we approach Christian education. So the first question we have tonight is kind of twofold. Is Wheaton Academy connected to a church? Is there affiliation? And then with that, kind of how does a statement of faith kind of connect? So anyone want to answer that question?
Matt, go for it, man.
Well, I love that question. It's one that comes up over and over and over. Everybody wants to know. And one of the things that I love about Wheaton Academy is the desire to partner, right? That's the big word, partner with parents. Some are right. Oh, I don't know. I can't point where they are. Well, some are watching, right? But partner with parents as they are educating their children or those who they're responsible for. And then also to partner with the church. And so Wheaton Academy isn't a church. It's not designed to replace church. Actually, what I love about this place, and I remember when I was a student at Wheaton Academy, so it's still happening and even more so, is that by coming to Wheaton Academy, I'm able to be more equipped to help serve at church, to take leadership roles at church, or to invite people at Wheaton Academy who maybe don't attend church to go to a church. And so I think there's all those things play into that.
Yeah, and I would just add to that there's the Academy is not connected to a church. It's not connected to a denomination. It's completely independent, and kind of playing off of some of the things that Matt said. One of the beautiful things is really the diversity of churches and the great number of churches that are represented here. I think there's students this year from almost 70 different churches around the area, and so that's a huge representation, and it's really a beautiful thing for all of those experiences and faith traditions and different ways of doing church come together. So that's one of the beautiful things about the Academy.
Well, I think it gives us a little slice of heaven, right? Because we're the body of Christ, and this is a chance for the body of Christ to be the body in all the different, various gifts and abilities, but also denominations. I love that about this school.
For sure.
Right. It's awesome. Yeah, we I would say if you're interested in looking specifically at our statement of faith, it is in that first document that's listed in the handouts. And I think what I love about Wheaton Academy in terms of our approach to those different items is like we major on the majors. Jesus is king, he's foremost. We're a gospel-centered school that has just a high value of just really important spiritual pillars. But then different faith expressions, there's room for that at Wheaton Academy, whether you go to like a really conservative church or maybe a more kind of liturgical experience, Catholic, and really everything in between. We have students who attend those types of congregations. And so I think in a lot of ways for me, I see a lot of iron sharpening iron, because students are kind of challenged to think about some of those different avenues of spiritual formation, because we're not all coming from the same vantage point in terms of a denomination or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's kind of go back to another introductory question of just explaining what chapel is. A lot of times students ask like, well, is that your church service? Or, kind of walk me through what is chapel? Is it required? What's it like? Kind of enter us into a typical chapel experience.
Yeah, well, I am on the Project Lead Spiritual Life team, and a lot of what our role is helping plan chapels and helping make sure that they go smoothly. Mr. Hogan is our leader. So it's really fun, and I think so we have chapels twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and some people might think that's a lot, but trust me, it really isn't. And the really cool thing about our chapels is that, some people would be like, they're so boring, sit in your chair. They're not like that, if that's what you think they are. We get speakers from all over, honestly, the world. It's not just America. We have people like fly in from all over to come speak to us, and they have a wide variety of styles. Some of them are like we've had spoken word artists, we've had professional artists, we've had professional musicians come and have that experience as well. Chapel is a place where you come together and worship together and then learn together and grow together. It's not just a time where you're sitting in your seats like falling asleep or anything. It's not boring, it's exciting. And I'd really encourage you to check out some of the live streams of previous chapels, because they're really impactful, and I can testify that chapels have completely transformed my faith. I've been a Christian since I was a kid, but the chapels here and the spiritual life here at Wheaton Academy was something that taught me how to take my faith as my own and then helped it grow and learn. And having that opportunity to have it multiple times a week really keeps you on track, but it's so awesome to be able to experience the gospel through so many different people.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, this is my first year of being a part of the worship team. Mrs. Klinke mentioned it earlier, and it was cool to see a different perspective of chapel, because it's different when you're like on the stage from versus in the seats. But it's really cool. Usually chapels are usually worship or singing at the beginning of the time, and then a message, or maybe one song at the beginning, one song at the end, something like that. But yeah, chapel's a really cool experience.
I would say, even for my other girls who went through the academy, that was one of the big things they were going to miss, whether it be the summer or something. They just loved that grounding a couple days a week. And as they went out into the real world, they learned that it's very unique to Wheaton Academy to have those special chapels where they grew closer to the Lord, and with fellow believers too, to have that time together. They're just special times.
So good. And I would just kind of cast a little framework for what we try to accomplish with chapel. It's I love what the students have said. It's more than just going to church. I mean, it's a very specific context. You know, you don't go to church with all your peers. You know, when you go to your church service on Sunday, you're not looking, you know, around you and seeing all your classmates. So it's a very specific context. But one of the things that I really love is that there are 4 very general topics that we rotate through, so that every student in their 4 years at Wheaton Academy will touch these 4 topics. This year our topic was journey, and we just talked about living our journey and our life with Christ and what it means to be image bearers of Christ, even when the world throws us some unexpected turns. Believe it or not, that was one of our sub themes early this year, is unexpected turns. And then just probably 3 weeks after that sub series ended, on the unexpected turns in our journey, we had the unexpected turn of being e-learning and stay-at-home order. But journey is one theme. Our theme next year is hope, and so we'll talk about the theme of hope throughout the year. Then there's a story is one of those themes that we'll talk about how God is writing our story and writing into our story, and that our lives are an important and specific part of His story and what He is doing here. And then the last one is life, just a very general topic, but talking about the importance of the life that God has breathed into us and how our lives should reflect who He is. So those are kind of the general topics that we try to hit, but we have some great speakers. The truth is, Hannah talked about wonderful speakers from all over the world. We have fantastic speakers on our faculty, and they are a part of the speakers who I pull from when we schedule our speakers, from faculty, local pastors and teachers, to really nationwide and worldwide speakers are who come in. So that's a snippet of what we're trying to accomplish with chapel.
Awesome. I will say, when we're able to have visitors at school, we have shadows, and students come on Tuesday, Friday. We often ask for some feedback, and overall, like time and time again, chapel is their favorite thing. It's a really cool time to come together, and very approachable, and I think really relevant in the content and the experience. So yeah, chapel comes up as that and lunch, especially when we're serving Chick-fil-A. So Chick-fil-A day, sometimes chapel takes the back seat. I'm just teasing. So, so great. Well, with that, I think another huge spiritual pillar of the school, in addition to chapel, is Bible class, which is required every year. A little bit of context, we have a freshman class called Foundations of Faith. It's a year long. That's kind of a Bible survey, go over Old and New Testament, as well as kind of the building blocks of biblical worldview training. Sophomore year is a semester class, which we go over spiritual formation and kind of the practice and habits of faith. Junior year is also a semester class called Life of Christ, focusing specifically on the 4 Gospels and Christ's time on earth. And then senior year opens up to 4 or 5 different options of a doctrine class, Matt's philosophy class, there's kind of a discipleship class, all different, there's a preaching class. So those classes are really the framework of our Bible curriculum. But for people asking what Bible class is like, how would you describe what that class is? We've got some students who are coming from public school, so though there's a faith background in their family, you know, they've never been graded on Jesus. So, you know, kind of explain that for our viewers tonight.
A really cool aspect. Oh,
no,
okay.
You go, bro. You go.
A really cool aspect of the Bible class of Wheaton Academy is there is some of the tests where we're learning about facts of the Bible and some of that nature, but I think a lot of the classes include kind of just open discussions and teachers really wanting the students to express what's on their mind and express on how their relationship with God is and where they're at in their own walk in life. So I think that's really something that's emphasized in Bible classes.
Well, and one of the things I was going to say, so right there, creating a safe place to have discussion, a safe place to ask questions. I've been here for 19 years, and one of the key things I've been wanting to see happen, and it is happening, is to create Bible classes where you're not, I love what you said, Brittany, but like graded on Jesus. And I think that's a fear, like, oh no, I don't know enough about Jesus, or I'm going to be graded on my faith, when we have definitely, no, that's not what Bible class is about. It's about creating an opportunity for everybody, wherever they are, to learn about Jesus, to get to know Jesus, to ask questions, to process through doubting. And that's one of the things that I love about our Bible curriculum all 4 years. One of the things in our Bible department meeting that we talked about to specifically describe this is we want people to be able to, all 4 years, be able to walk along the river, to get to know the river, to not have to be in it, to not get swept downstream, or to not get wet at all, but still learn all about it all 4 years. But we also want people who aren't walking in the river to be able to jump in or get a canoe or swim around with their friends or to get in and get out. Like, so it's safe for you on your journey all 4 years to experience it, to get swept downstream if you want, or to learn all about Christianity and Christ and who Christ is. And so I think that's really important. And then, since I'm talking, one other key point is there's that difference between learning about Jesus, learning about the book, the Bible, and then actually building this personal relationship with the living God of the universe who loves you and loves all of us. And I think those are all available in our Bible classes as well. I could just keep talking and talking, so I'm going to leave other people a chance.
Yeah, I think one thing I would just add is, as Mrs. Klinke was describing the order of the Bible classes, you might have noticed the pattern of starting with Foundations of Faith and moving on to spiritual formation and then Life of Christ. The Bible classes are very intentional about easing you into it and letting you get to know it. It's not, hey, freshman year, you need to recite the entire Bible. Like, they don't make you do that. But like, they let you like explore, and then and all of the Bible classes, they teach you about how to like navigate in the real world, and it's very applicable, very like realistic, in which as a student you're not having concepts that are going way over your head. It's very real, and you can apply it in your own life. And I can testify that I love the fact that the classes go from foundations of faith, where you get to like actually know the real foundations. I mean, I've been a Christian my entire life, and I learned some brand new things that I never knew in some of these classes. And they're key things to the faith, so they're really worth your while. And even, I think someone else touched on this, I can't remember who, but even if you aren't like a Christian, you can still do awesome in these classes. And I think it was Jeremiah who said a lot of these classes are discussion based. And so those insights are awesome into having those discussions. So you don't feel out of place. It adds more to the community, and being able to be open and having a safe spot to talk about faith and the questions and the doubts that you have, even if you are a Christian.
Right.
I would add as I would add as a parent too, I believe there's still opportunities for some of the Bible classes to be used for college credit. And my girls, if you choose to go to a Christian university where those credits would apply, they've been able to go further with some deeper Bible classes in college, and they felt very prepared for their college Bible classes with the education and what they learned at Wheaton Academy. So they've always expressed gratitude for what they learned there.
Great. Well, thank you. You know, one of the things too, when we think about chapel and Bible class, I think another pillar, if you will, is just this idea of a biblical worldview. And I think sometimes when students are asking me questions or things come out throughout the time, they're like, okay, well, you're a Christian school because you have Bible and then there's chapel. And so it's like, okay, got it. Like, we'll check those boxes and those will make us what, you know, makes us a Christian school. And I get excited sometimes when there's that misconception, because it's an opportunity for me to talk about what it means to teach from a biblical worldview, and that perspective isn't just reserved for those two experiences. So can you guys kind of speak to that of, you know, how do teachers teach from a biblical worldview? How is it experienced kind of outside of the two things we've already discussed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that really stands out to me about our school and like all of that, the biblical perspective, is since all of our teachers are like Christians, they infuse it into their education, and they teach from that biblical perspective. It could be from science, it could be in math, it could be in English. And it's not, sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. It's not like as prominent as those Bible classes, obviously, but it's still a safe place to be able to make those connections and to have explanations. And in science classes, we still talk about like evolution and stuff, but we're also able to talk about creation and kind of look at the differences between them and compare. And it's really awesome to be able to have that space where you're able to approach those, like, again, you're able to ask questions that you've had about the Bible and how it applies to the real world in a safe spot. And I think the other way that it impacts is the student body. Earlier I was kind of thinking that our school has a very Christ-centered focus in all of our thinking and our application from the students to the teachers. And this means that we apply the characteristics of Christ at our school, and that's like the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace. And we try to emulate that as people, which creates a really special community and a really special place for all of us students to be able to ask those questions and explore our faith throughout all of the different academics.
Oh, proud teacher moment right here. Like, yes, go girl. Oh, I love it.
I don't think I'll be saying anything the rest of the night.
That's good. Like, what is going on? The proof is in the pudding right here.
Oh, it's so good.
from a teacher's perspective, I think it's really important to consider. Long time ago, there was this language of biblical integration. Like, we've got to make sure all the teachers put truth in there, especially Bible truth. And what we have understood, what we teach, and our approach with worldview is that all the truth is God's truth. That goes all the way back, and that's something that we build up from. We're not adding biblical truth to science class. The truth of Christ is in science class, and the teachers here and the students all help connect the truth. And that's the beauty of it. You go from class to class to class, and you're like, oh, truth, oh, truth, oh, truth. Wait, it's all Christ's truth. Oh, there we go. I think that's the beauty of worldview and what Wheaton Academy does so well. It's fantastic. And I think that's not just something that we do, as you're seeing, that's a skill that students are learning that they're taking with them.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I would just add that what I see from Hannah and from her siblings, but also kids, and even when I was there, high school is a time where you ask the tough questions and you're pounded from outside sources with some truth, some not truth, or some you don't know. And especially these kids see stuff all the time, and especially online, and they don't know what to do with it. So in every class, they're able to ask those tough questions and go to these teachers who become their mentors and help them work that through, because as these kids grow up, if they've been believers, it's been kind of their parents' faith or whoever's around them. It's a time where the faith becomes their own, or they're on a journey where those truths will be put in, or they'll learn some things they'll take with them for the rest of their life, and will develop their faith to be their own, to launch them to the next stage of life.
Awesome.
Well, can I say one more thing about worldview? I think one of the things that's really important is that Wheaton Academy, we're not trying to like stiff arm the kids. You got to believe in Jesus. What we understand and what students are understanding, and these students I know can testify to this, is everybody has a worldview. Everybody has things that they're trusting. It's not like the atheist doesn't have faith and we have faith. Everybody has faith. And so what we're talking about is what's trustworthy. And what I love seeing, it's one of my favorite things about teaching at Wheaton Academy, is to watch students realize, wait a second, Christianity, not just my parents' faith, not just what this crazy Bible teacher believes, it's the best option of all the options out there. And we start realizing like Jesus's way to live is the best way to live, and I just don't want to miss out. And that to me as a teacher is something that's sustainable, is when you know that what you're believing in is trustworthy, that everybody else is trusting stuff, but yours is really trustworthy, and it's the best way to live. Taking that to college is so important. But the other thing about worldview is we're not just teaching worldview, we're inviting students who maybe don't or do, but into a relationship with the truth himself. We're not just learning about the truth, we're getting to know the truth. I tell my students that's like the difference between knowing about Aslan, the lion in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Lucy, who, right, imagine Lucy going out to college and some professor saying, well, Aslan's not real. Like she's going like, I wrote on his back, like, of course he's real. And so I think that's something like these two students I know not just about Christ, they know Christ. And that's why I want my own kids to be at a place like Wheaton Academy, where they're going to own their faith, not just their philosophy teacher dad's faith, but then they also know Christ. That's what's sustainable when you head off to college. That's what's life-giving.
Awesome. That's great. With that question, I'd love to ask, Jeremiah and Hannah, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but, today was, in a lot of ways, your last day of learning. It's a milestone of sorts. And so as you look back at your time at Wheaton Academy, how have you grown spiritually? I think what Matt just articulated is our hope is that, you do, start one place freshman year and end in a farther place with the Lord by senior year. So do you mind just sharing a little bit of just kind of the spiritual growth you've experienced as a result these past 4 years?
Where to start?
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think the key thing for me was really making my faith my own. I thought I had made my faith my own. I'll admit, I think I was coming into freshman year being like, I got it all under control, but really didn't. And I think chapel was a huge thing. And then obviously high school, like it has its challenges, and you're growing up, and especially as a teenager in this world, there's a lot of things that like are really challenging about that. And then I just even had some of my own personal challenges going on with a lot of different things. And all of that, makes you ask questions and makes you have doubts and thoughts. And obviously that's completely normal, but it's still a scary thing when you're like, what, I'm having questions about my faith, like what? And then the school provides a place for you to, again, ask those questions and get true biblical based answers. And the people here, the teachers, are just amazing. Almost all of my teachers are my mentors, I would say. And like these two people have been huge mentors in my life. And somewhat like, and I'm so grateful that I was able to have these people where I could go to and ask questions and to seek help when I was going through hard times. And you come out stronger in the end. And I can testify as a senior now, looking back from freshman year, how much I've been able to grow and how much my faith has developed and become stronger, and actually knowing what I believe in and being able to take a stand in what I believe in is a huge difference from when I first came to the school.
Great. Amen. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think 2 ways that I've grown spiritually is, one way is just being confident in myself and being confident in the identity I have in Christ, and not letting the lies of the enemy and not letting the lies that I tell myself of I'm not good enough or I can't do this, but listening to God's voice and letting his voice be the loudest. And also just realizing that things change in high school. There's a lot of highs and lows. Things come and go, people come and go, but God stays the same and God will never change. So just always going to him is never the wrong way. So in every situation, just to go to him, and that's something that's really impacted my life over my high school career.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot there a little bit. It was a question I had on my list for later, but I just couldn't miss the segue opportunity set up. So that's great. Well, one thing I do want to talk about a little bit tonight is just kind of the student culture spiritually. I think we've talked about kind of the natural built-in things that happen at the school with chapel and Bible and teachers who are kind of 100% on board in faith and mentorship and trying to really infuse that in class. But just from a student level, how would you kind of describe the spiritual climate of Wheaton Academy, and how does spiritual belief and values kind of affect our culture as a school? So I know it's a big question, but yeah, what comes to mind when you think about our school culture?
Well, I know, no matter what the kids are involved with, when Hannah was in volleyball, my other daughter played volleyball, it was the coaches training the kids correctly, and I'm not going to get my words correct here, but it's them really pouring into them as a person and spiritually, as well as the sport. We want to be an excellent person and student and player, and be a witness for Christ on this court and play fairly, versus what you see sometimes from other schools. You just see that poured into your kids in every activity at the academy.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, our motto for our school is relationships, excellence, and service. And I would say relationships is probably what sets Wheaton Academy apart from any other high school that I know of. And that's for three different reasons. And that's the student to student relationships, the student to teacher relationships, and the student to God relationships. And we've touched on the student to God relationships a lot, and even the student to teacher, which is a huge part of Wheaton Academy, but I could go into that all day. But student to student, it's a really special place because we are able to come together as a community of high schoolers. I mean, we're still teenagers. We do goofy things. We're so fun, and we like to have that fun community. But one of the words we throw around a lot is community at our school, especially in the context of kingdom community. And I know there's other people in this community who could probably go into that more than I could. But kingdom community is such a special phrase because it's basically we want to emulate Christ-like behavior and how Christ acts towards each other. That's how we want to act towards each other. And I can testify that happens. I mean, we live in a fallen world, so it's not 100% perfect all the time, but we do it so well. And I mean, looking back, it's my last day of senior year technically, and I am so grateful for, like, my friends are more like family, and my teachers are my friends. It's a really special place to make those relationships and lasting relationships as well.
Yeah. Well said.
So good. You know, I would say, kind of from a spiritual perspective, our student culture it's very dynamic. There's you don't have to be a Christian to come to Wheaton Academy, and there are many students who are not who do not follow Christ, and we've had I've just had incredible conversations with students who are still in that place on the journey. Matt talked about it alongside the river. You know, their kids are just still in that place, and I love being in a place where a student has the confidence and feels that it's safe enough to say, I don't buy this. I'm not into this. I don't buy it yet. And it's amazing just to be able to say to that student, you know, my hope, my prayer for you is that you would just keep the conversation going. Just keep open. It's not like we're drawing a line in the sand that you have to step over. But that's a dynamic thing at Wheaton Academy that I love, is that there are students who are not on a journey with Christ, and there are students in the middle of that journey with Christ, and there are students that are more mature in that. But all of that is okay. All of that is okay, and we need to be in that place together. And as Hannah has mentioned, just that student to student. Changing people's lives and encouraging people. I see that among our student body, and it's really an awesome thing to see. So I just want to say to any of you who are thinking about coming to Wheaton Academy, I mean, we're talking about the spiritual climate at Wheaton Academy tonight, and we're excited about what God's doing. But I want you to know, wherever you are, this is a place for you, and you will not be ostracized or isolated. It's a place where you can ask questions, and you can do that of teachers, of staff, and even more so peer to peer. So that's one of the characteristics of our spiritual climate among our students that I really think is remarkable.
And kind of going off of the Kingdom community plug that Hannah mentioned, it's a shame because I won't be able to, or even me and Hannah, we won't be able to see we won't be in the midst of the fruits of the future, but it's cool to see a school that's aware of where we are now and aware of our faults and aware that we're not perfect, but we're hopeful of the future, and we're committed to growing and getting better. And I think something that Mr. Hogan and I have worked a lot with, the idea of kingdom community, and we just kind of been learning about people's stories and learning to acknowledge our differences and learning that everyone's different and unique. But we're all a part of the kingdom of God. So that's really a awesome aspect of Wheaton Academy, that we're committed to growth, committed to the future, and you know, you don't see that in a lot of places.
Yeah, I want to throw something out there that kind of pulls a lot of this together too. These two students on the screen are ones that I know personally, that the phrase could be said, they'll know they are Christians. And some of you know the end of that sentence if you're watching, some of you don't. But it's not they'll know we are Christians because they're awesome at sports, or they're awesome at art, or they're awesome at academics, or they're awesome at getting the right answer, or they're whatever. They'll know we are Christians by our love. And these two students, they love me, let alone love other students. You know, like, I think that's one of the things that I love about the kingdom community concept is there's a king, he's got a kingdom, and off of the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth at Wheaton Academy, just like it's done in heaven. What an amazing standard to shoot for. We're talking about journey, but that's the goal. And it's a great thing. I love how you mentioned the fruit, Jeremiah. We're building, we're growing, but we've got a great goal. And love is the outcome, and helping students become more loving. And I love what you said, Brian, is that you don't have to be a Christian in order to be loving. Some of the most loving people I know aren't Christians, actually. And we have Buddhists at our school who are incredibly loving. And so when we have a kingdom culture, and the kingdom culture's core value is love and honor, that's a place where I want to be. And who wouldn't want to be in a high school that's got love and honor as its main focus, right? Fantastic.
That's great. Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys for just, I know it's a tough questions. I feel like you really captured some really key truths of our student culture. So we're kind of nearing the end of our time. So I do want to give our attendees a chance to chime in with any last questions that they're maybe thinking of. But while we maybe give them space to type those in the chat, I'd love to kind of end with a question, and then maybe they'll have more, but at least this one for now. You know, when you think back, especially for you two students, kind of when you were starting Wheaton Academy, you know, when you were stepping foot on campus for the first time, or maybe even before that, we were trying to figure out what high school to go to, you know, any advice, this is for everybody, but, you know, specifically for Hannah and Jeremiah, like any kind of words of wisdom that you would give a family, both who's considering the school and then those who've kind of signed in tonight, who are already committed and enrolled and they're good to go, you know, anything in either end. Just, yeah, any parting words of wisdom that you'd give them?
I have to think about this one for a second. That's a really loaded question. I think there are so many things that I would want to tell people, but I think a lot of what I would say has already been said in this chat is just this place is so special, and it's so unique, from even just talking to people who go to different high schools in the area and people who go to different high schools around the country. And I'll be like, I love my teachers, I love hanging out with them and getting lunch with them, and they're like, what? And it's such a unique place where you can be yourself. And I think that's what really sets us apart. And I think that what Mr. D, he said it perfectly, is it's because we're a community based on love, and we're a community based on loving each other. I mean, we don't do it perfectly all the time because we live in a fallen world, but we strive every day to do that, and it shows. And I think for me, looking back as a freshman, what you're saying, I grew because I felt loved for who I was, no matter if I was struggling, no matter if I was succeeding. We are a school who weeps with each other, and we are a school who celebrates with each other. And we are also a school for everything in between. And I think for any student here or any family that is considering Wheaton Academy, is that you should know that we are a school who rallies together no matter the circumstance. Even in a worldwide pandemic, we're rallying together. Right. We want to love on each other, and we want to make our school reflect what Christ has intended for this world and for his kingdom in heaven.
If there are any openings, I think I might want to come to high school at Wheaton Academy. I just sign me up. Sign me up.
I'll go back. I'll be freshman again.
I love it. I love it.
Brian will just be in the back of Matt's class all year next year.
Let's go.
Don't mind him.
Isn't that telling? Like, that's what we want. I actually have parents saying, "Can I go to high school again?" I'm like, if we can create a high school culture. I mean, let's be blunt. Many of the disciples were probably teenagers. Jesus loves teenagers. He knows that they can and want to change the world. And I think creating a safe, exciting place where you can not just learn to be yourself, but learn more of who you are as well in the light of Christ. That's what we all want. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I guess some advice I would give is just like don't be afraid to ask us any tough questions to us students or us or teachers or faculty. A question I like when I was looking through high schools and even college, a question I like to ask is like, what's something you would change about the place? Not wanting them to say they hate the place or dislike it, but just curious on how they want to grow. And I think at Wheaton Academy, we're thankful for what we have, but we know that there's so much more that God has in store for us. So don't be afraid to ask us the tough questions.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Any other closing thoughts or words as we wrap up? Great. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I am just so grateful for your time and your wisdom and perspective. You know, Hannah and Jeremiah specifically, I want to just kind of celebrate you. You have contributed so much to our school culture, and honestly, this time doesn't really give you two justice of the ways that you just need to be celebrated, and you know, just how grateful we are to the way that you have shaped a lot of the things that we're talking about, whether it's classes or chapel or student relationship, everything. So it just is a real blessing to be able to spend tonight with you and just again introduce you to yeah, our future school community in a lot of ways. So thank you for your time tonight, but more importantly, just the way you ministered to our school. So we're super proud and super grateful for you. So yeah, and Brian and Matt, thank you too. No, but and thank you to our audience for signing in and joining us tonight, whether you're live with us or in the recording later. There are some additional resources in the chat. We linked our spiritual life page on our website, which shows some things in addition to more of kind of what we talked about. You can also save that chat if you want. If you go to File, Save Chat Log, it'll download those things for you so you don't have to copy those links in a different place. There's also a phone number if you want to text us some questions. I know that happens with me sometimes where I'm thinking about things afterwards, like, oh, I should have asked that. You know? So if you want to type or text 630-528-2518, we'll answer your questions throughout the night or even into tomorrow or future days. And we have one more Q&A next week, same time. We're going to hear from our head of school and some other parents and things, just talking about from their perspective, just the value of Christian school and again, just their perspective and some of the things that we talked about. So kind of a wrap up of the last 4 weeks of talking about our school. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to you guys all. I just am so grateful, and it's just been a pleasure. So thank you all. Yeah, have a wonderful night. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.